I'm back with Robby Starbuck. He's running for Congress in District 5 of Tennessee. Robby, I'm sure this is good news for you. Jim Cooper, the incumbent congressman, has decided to not run again, but run for the exit. He's not running again, thus creating an open seat in a heavily Republican-leaning district. I think this means that if you can make it through the primary, you'll be a good shot to win the election. Talk a little bit about your contract with America that you just released. Newt Gingrich, I believe, has just endorsed it. We talked about why we need a contract with America. What's in your contract with America?
Well, step one, I think, is one that's going to excite a lot of people, because without step one, you really don't have a chance to get everything else done. And it's that we need to recommit ourselves to clean bills. I think one of the things that we've seen the most in terms of negative outcome in America has been these omnibus bills that are 2,000, 4,000 pages long. No rep actually reads them. We're depending on aides and lobbyists to write our bills that are then dictating policy in our country. We have got to stop doing this. We've got to go back and revert to the basics. We've got to have bills that the reps actually write, they read, and that they know what they're voting on. So that's step one. But as you go further down the line in it, I think simplicity is sort of a surprising factor in it, where it says, something like, let's say, an issue like CRT. I think CRT is actually very simple to solve. And I think it's that we, number one, have to recognize it already violates anti-discrimination law. But number two, we need to pass through that makes it very clear that anybody who takes federal funds cannot teach, train, or deploy CRT in any way. That by itself covers everything. It covers all the public schools. It covers Lockheed Martin. It covers, even Amazon, Coca-Cola, all these places, they take federal dollars. So if you take them, you are not going to be able to use this stuff. You won't have trainings like Coca-Cola's training recently this year where they said, can you be less white, please? This stuff won't happen anymore. And so I think as you run the game and you go through it, immigration's another one where we have a very simple proposal to immigration. And it's that we need to flip the incentives. We need to go and say, hey, we have this Citizenship Protection Act. And what it does is it says, if you're caught here illegally, you will never be allowed to become a citizen and you will never receive benefits in the United States of America. It changes the incentives entirely from an era right now where people in Central America, South America, Mexico, they believe they can come here and get anything. We need to change that incentive and that messaging, and that's part of it.
I like the Internet Bill of Rights that is part of your contract with America, where you make the point that social media is the public square. Well, I guess what you're doing is you're going against what has been a little bit of a libertarian nostrum, this notion that, well, these are private companies, and as long as they are not officially part of the U.S. government, they have every right to kick whoever they want for whatever reason or no reason at all off their platforms, and you're saying no, why not?
Absolutely not. And there's a number of reasons. Number one, on that sort of more libertarian bent argument, the truth is that these companies are working in concert with the government. We saw it in California where they worked with the governor's office and multiple people within the state party for the Democratic Party to censor people online. Okay, they've done that across the U.S. When they're meddling in elections and they're doing all this and they're shutting down voices in prominent parties, and essentially what I would argue is making contributions beyond the legal limits, okay? These are things that we should be able to look at and say very clearly, there's a problem here. But beyond that, when you just look at normal people having conversations and being banned off these websites, I relate it to cell phones, because if you and I are having a conversation on our cell phones right now and we're talking about politics and Verizon doesn't like what I say, they're not allowed to hop on the line and say, hey, Robby, you're not allowed to say that. You're going to be banned for 7 days. And if you do it again, you're going to be banned forever. And by the way, we're going to call AT&T and T-Mobile and we're going to tell them they have to ban you too. Okay. Everybody would understand that's crazy. But what's kind of crazy is that they don't see that with social media, some of these people, and they should, because these social media sites are actually used more for communication and conversation and sharing information than our cell phones are in terms of calling people. So we've got to protect people's right to engage in the public square. It's really a hallmark of American tradition and of who we are as a country, and so that's why we've got to do it.
One of your provisions in the contract is make America safe again, which I guess is part of the way you make America great again. We've seen these massive crime waves in, well, I would have to say largely democratic cities. And although one of your provisions is about rebuilding rural America, I think it seems to me your contract covers not just the rural areas, but also the cities. And it seems like what you're saying is one of the best things you can do for cities is to sort of clean out the criminal element, right?
100%. And I wrote a large op-ed in the New York Post about Soros prosecutors, and I had actually done it years ago in the Federalist and warned people about what was coming, and that Soros understood all politics was local and that we didn't have anybody fighting this. And if you don't get in the fight now and realize what Soros realizes and is investing money in, we're going to end up in big trouble with crime. And that's exactly what happened. Is we didn't fight it. Soros poured in millions into DA races that typically used to have, tens of thousands of dollars put into them. And now we have these DAs who refuse to prosecute violent crime. I mean, they refuse to prosecute things that you would never dream of. They're releasing people from prison who are child predators. This is just, it should never happen in America. And the only way it's going to stop is if we get really smart about this and we have a cohesive plan that everybody gets behind to stop it.
What do you think, Robby, as we close out here, what do you think the motivation here is on the part of Soros and the left? Is it that they genuinely believe that criminals are a misunderstood group of people who are a product of a racist America? Or do you think that this is something a little darker and more insidious? They actually want to create chaos in the cities. Maybe this is a prelude to some sort of revolution. Maybe, as in Venezuela, they want to deploy the criminal class as colectivos. What do you think they're trying to do in dismantling the law and order structure of America?
It's much darker and much more insidious. It's twofold for somebody like Soros. Number one, he makes his money manipulating currency. So he wants to be able to manipulate currency while he's doing this. It's where he's made his money his whole career. It's not a secret. But most people, I think, are not aware of that. When you go into the real why, though, when you get into sort of the philosophical goals here, the truth is Marxism has never come to fruition in a happy country. It comes through chaos. And so they know they have to build up chaos, they have to build unrest, and they have to divide us as much as they possibly can if they want Marxism to have a way to rise to the top here in America. And, I think that this is a very clear strategy from them to make that happen and make that chaos reality. And it's obviously working at this point.
Robby, you're a great guy. You're doing great work. All the best with your race, and thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Dinesh. Love you guys.